Dear students, now we are going to start a new chapter, that is respiration. Chapter 14, respiration in plant physiology. So in this chapter, we are going to discuss about the detailed importance and the process, how it takes place in plants, animals, almost all living organisms. Generally, what is respiration? Respiration is nothing but it is a breaking down of carbohydrates or fats or lipids or even protein materials by the oxygen to produce carbon dioxide, water and energy. So this process is generally called as respiration. So what are the products which are obtained in photosynthesis that will be utilized for the process of respirations? So in this process, breaking down of this organic material to break down to produce more amount of energy apart from this carbon dioxide and water. So this process is called respiration. Now we are going to discuss in details about the respiration. So in this chapter we are going to discuss in details of gaseous exchange, structure of ATP, redox reaction. Redox means reduction and oxidation. So this is couple of reactions, how redox reaction takes place in respiration process, then different types of respirations, then various stages of respiration like glycolysis, Krebs cycle and electron transport system. Thereafterwards, we are going to discuss about respiratory quotient, anaerobic respiration, factors affecting respiration. Then at last we are going to discuss about pentose phosphate pathway. You know one thing, both plants and animals are interdependent with each other. Naturally, in biosphere, plants and animals are complementary systems which are integrated to this sustain life. In plants, oxygen enters through the stomata and it is transported to the cells where the oxygen is utilized for the energy production. Plants require carbon dioxide to survive, to produce carbohydrate during photosynthesis and to release oxygen through the process of photosynthesis. These oxygen molecules are inhaled by human through the nose, which reaches the lungs, where oxygen is transported through the blood and it is reaches to the cells. Then cellular respiration takes place inside the cell. A specialized respiratory system is present in animals, but on the other hand, it is totally absent in plants for delivering oxygen inside the cell. But cellular respiration stages are similar in both plants and animals. Now the details of cellular respiration also can be seen in this chapter in detail. One thing, do you know the concept of one thing about respiration? Suppose if you are sleeping under the tree, any type of tree, at night, you might feel difficult for breathing. What is the reason behind it, During night time, plants take up oxygen and release more amount of carbon dioxide. As a result of carbon dioxide will be abundant around the trees, we are feeling very difficult to breathe. And moreover, the oxygen is completely replaced by the plant during respiration. This process is called respiration. So this oxygen is taken by the plants for the breakdown of organic material to release carbon dioxide, water and energy. So due to this, more amount of carbon dioxide is evolved. That is why we might feel difficult to breathe. So this process of respiration takes place during daytime as well, but it is accompanied by the breakdown of substrates as well as it is releasing the energy. In this chapter, we are going to discuss in details of this respiration process. Respiration process is gaseous exchange process. Actually, the term respiration was coined by Pepys, a great scientist in the year 1966. So, respiration is a biological process in which oxidation of various food substances like carbohydrates, proteins, and fat take place, and as a result, the energy is produced, where oxygen is taken and carbon dioxide is released. So, this is the respiration process. So, usually the organic substances which are oxidized during the respirations are called respiratory substrate. Most probably, glucose is the commonest respiratory substrate. During this process of respiration, the CC bond, that means the carbon-carbon bond is broken down by the oxygen, then it is releasing huge amount of energy. This energy released during respiration is stored in the form of ATP, adenosine triphosphate. So this is called as oxidative phosphorylation. Sorry, the phosphorylation means synthesis of ATP. If it takes place during oxidation of organic substances like glucose or carbohydrate or any lipid or fatty material, even proteins. So usually the process of respiration can be explained with the help of an equation. So look at this picture. So in this picture we can able to see an equation. So this equation will be helping us to understand about what is the chemical process which takes place. Look at this. Now on the screen there is an equation, C6H12O6 plus 6O2. That means the glucose is combined or oxidized with oxygen to release 6 molecule of carbon dioxide and 6 molecule of water and energy. How much amount of energy is released? 686 kilocalories or 2868 kilojoules. 1 kilojoules is equal to 4.184 kilojoules. So, depending upon the nature of the respiratory substrate is used, it is basically divided into two types of respiration. One is floating respiration, another one is protoplasmic respiration. So when carbohydrates or fats or even some organic acids are served as a respiratory substrate, and it is called floating respiration. So it is a common mode of respiration and does not produce any toxic product. So whereas respiration utilizing protein as a respiratory substrate, it is called protoplasmic respiration. So the respiration is divided into two types, namely floating respiration and protoplasmic respiration, on the basis of what type of respiratory substrate is utilized for the process of respiration. So if they are using carbohydrate or fat or even some organic material, then this is producing floating respiration. On the other hand, if it is producing protein as a respiratory substrate, they are called as protoplasmic respiration, and moreover they are releasing a toxic or poisonous substances called ammonia. So it is a problematic for the every living organisms. So next we are going to see about compensation point. What is compensation point? So compensation point is nothing but from at the dawn and the end of dusk, the intensity of light is low. That means the early morning, there is dawn, and when the sunset, it is dusk. During this time, the intensity of light is very, very low. The point at which carbon dioxide release in a respiration is exactly equal or compensated by the carbon dioxide fixed in photosynthesis. That means no net gases exchanges takes place. That means how much amount of carbon dioxide is utilized for the photosynthesis process. If it is equal to the same amount of carbon dioxide is released during respiration, then these are called as compensation point. That means the amount of photosynthesis which will be equal to the amount of respiration. This point is considered that compensation point. So generally at this moment, the amount of oxygen is released from the photosynthesis is also equal to the amount of oxygen utilized in the respiration. So this process is called as compensation point. Now we are going to start. The next concept is structure of ATP. So structure of ATP is concerned. You can look at this picture. This picture will be helping you to understand about what is the structure of ATP. Actually, ATP is the energy currency for all the living organisms. Look at the screen. So this is called ATP. So usually this respiration is responsible for the generation of ATP. So respiration is also called as energy currency. The discovery of ATP was made by Carl Lohmann in the year 1929. ATP is a nucleotide which is consisting a base adenine. If you see at the top of the picture, the figure which is showing adenine. Then this adenine, a pentose sugar is, that is ribose, is attached and 3 phosphate molecules are joined together. Out of these 3 phosphate group, the last 2 are attached by high energy rich bond. So whenever the energy is necessary, the high energy bond are oxidized to release phosphate, then huge amount of energy is released. So one hydrolysis, it releases around 7.3 kilocalories of energy, that is 30.6 kilojoules per ATP. And it is found in almost all living organisms, almost all living cells as well. And hence it is called, the ATP is called as universal energy currency of the cell. So ATP is an instant source of energy within the cell. The energy contained in ATP is in the synthesis of carbohydrate, proteins and lipids. That is why this ATP is very important. Suppose if this adenine and ribose, if it is attached with one phosphate, then this is called as monophosphate, that is AMP. Suppose this adenine, if it is linked with 2 phosphate, so this is called as adenosine diphosphate, that is ADP. Suppose this adenine means, adenosine means both adenine is linked with ribose sugar. So this adenine is linked with ribose sugar, this will be called as adenosine. So if this adenosine is linked with 3 phosphate molecules, then this is called as triphosphate, adenosine triphosphate. So this is called as ATP structure. So it is very important. Now we are going to see another important concept is called redox reactions. Redox means both reduction and oxidation process. What is reduction? Reduction means if you remove oxygen atom, and if you are adding electrons or hydrogen, then this reaction is called as reduction. What is oxidation? If you are adding oxygen or removal of electrons and hydrogen, then this is called as reduction. It is commonly, we used to call it Leo jerk. Leo means a lion. A lion is making a sound, roaring a sound is jerk. So it is easy to remember about Leo jerk. So Leo means loss of electrons are called as oxidation. Then jerk, gain of electrons are called as reduction. So this is, we can able to understand very easily to remember about what is reduction, what is oxidation. So this oxidation and reduction process is usually always coupled in respiration as well as in photosynthesis process. Now we are going to discuss about types of respiration. So what are the different types of respirations? So basically depends upon the utilization or availability of oxygen. So respiration is divided into 2 types, namely aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. What is aerobic respiration? What is anaerobic respiration? If the respiration process which takes place in the presence of air or in the presence of oxygen, then this process is called as aerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration means if the respiration process which takes place without oxygen or without air, which are called as anaerobic respiration. These anaerobic respirations are further classified into alcoholic fermentation, lactic acid fermentation, and mixed acid fermentation. In such a way, anaerobic process might be divided into three different types. So what is aerobic respiration? As I said earlier, if respiration occurring in the presence of oxygen, which is called as aerobic respiration. So during aerobic respiration, the food materials like carbohydrates, fats and proteins are completely oxidized to produce carbon dioxide, water and energy. So aerobic respiration is very complex process, and moreover it is completed in four major important steps known as glycolysis, oxidative decarboxylation of pyruvic acid, that is pyruvic oxidation. This is also called as link reaction. Then this is followed by Krebs cycle, that is tricarboxylic acid cycle, acetic acid cycle. And then finally this energy is utilized or oxidized during the process of electron transport chain. So this is terminal oxidation. Then we can see about anaerobic respiration. So anaerobic respiration is nothing but in the absence of molecular oxygen, the glucose is incompletely degraded. Oxidation, aerobic respiration is completely oxidized or completely degraded of the organic substances. But here in anaerobic respiration, the glucose is incompletely degraded into either ethyl alcohol or lactic acid. Then it is called as anaerobic respiration. This anaerobic respiration includes glycolysis and fermentation. So glycolysis is common for both aerobic and anaerobic respiration. So during various stages like during glycolysis, the conversion of glucose into two molecules of pyruvic acid in cytoplasm of the cell. This is called as glycolysis. Then the link reaction, the conversion of pyruvic acid into acetyl coenzyme A in mitochondrial matrix. So this is also called as link reaction, or we can also call it pyruvic oxidation or oxidative decarboxylation of pyruvic acid. Then afterwards this acetyl coenzyme A enter into Krebs cycle. So in this Krebs cycle, conversion of acetyl coenzyme A into carbon dioxide, water in the mitochondrial matrix. Then energy product like NADPH, NADH2 and FADH2, which are producing during this glycolysis, Krebs cycle and oxidative decarboxylation of pyruvic acid, which are producing huge amount of this. But energy will not be obtained. When these NADH2 and FADH2 are oxidized or hydrolyzes, then only they can able to produce energy. So this process which will be takes place in a continuous sequence of electron transport system. This is called as electron transport chain. So this is a continuous process which will be takes place in aerobic respiration. Then electron transport chain and oxidative phosphorylation remove the hydrogen atoms from the product of glycolysis, link reaction, Krebs cycle release a huge amount of water molecule and energy in the form of ATP in mitochondrial matrix to the inner membrane. So this is called as the stages of respiration. We shall explain the details of almost all the various stages of respiration in detail which are takes place in aerobic respiration one by one. So before we are going to discuss about these various stages of this respiration, now we are going to discuss about the comparison between aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. As you know very well about aerobic and anaerobic respiration, the name itself we can able to understand that what is aerobic, what is anaerobic. So aerobic means the process which takes place only in the presence of oxygen are called as aerobic respiration. On the other hand, if it takes place in the absence of oxygen, then this is called as anaerobic respiration. So it occurs in all living organisms. Which one? Aerobic respirations are occurring all living organisms, all living cells are higher organisms like plants and animals. But anaerobic respiration may be occur in yeast or some bacteria. Aerobic respiration occurs, they require oxygen for breaking the respiratory substrate. As far as anaerobic respiration is concerned, oxygen is not required for breaking the respiratory substance. In aerobic respiration, the end product are carbon dioxide and water, but on the other hand, anaerobic respiration producing alcohol, carbon dioxide or lactic acid. So water is not formed here. Then aerobic respiration can be able to produce 36 ATP molecule for one complete oxidation of glucose molecule. But on the other hand, in anaerobic respiration, one complete glucose molecule can be able to produce 2 molecules of ATP only. The aerobic respiration is consists of 4 different stages, namely glycolysis, link reaction, Calvin cycle, electron transport system. But in anaerobic respiration, it is consists of 2 stages, namely glycolysis and fermentation. The aerobic respiration might be occurs in the cytoplasm and mitochondria, but anaerobic respiration is occur only in cytoplasm. Now we are going to discuss in details of various stages of respiration like glycolysis, oxidative decarboxylation of pyruvic acid, Krebs cycle and electron transport chain. Among them, first we are going to discuss in detail about glycolysis. What is glycolysis? Glyco means glucose. Lysis means breakdown. So breaking down of 6 carbon compound of glucose is breakdown to produce 2 molecules of 3 carbon compound of 2 molecules of pyruvic acid, which is called as, what do you call? Glycolysis. So this process, which will be common for both aerobic as well as anaerobic respiration. So this process of glycolysis, which takes place in 2 phases, namely preparatory phase and payoff phase. Usually this glycolysis takes place in cytoplasm. This was discovered by 3 scientists, namely Emden, Mayer and Paulus. That is Gustav Emden in German scientist. Another German scientist was called as Otto Meyerhoff, and Polish scientist who was called as J. Paulus. These 3 scientists have been discovered this glycolysis process. Hence, this is called as the first letter of this scientist's name indicates that it is also called as EMP pathway. So it is a first common stage for both aerobic as well as anaerobic respiration. As I said just now, this process takes place in 2 stages, that is preparatory phase and payoff phase. In the preparatory phase is also called as hexose phase. That means all the molecules which are present in this phase, which are made up of by 6 carbon atoms. That is why these are called as hexose. Then after this followed by payoff phase. The payoff phase is also called as triose phase, because the triose phase, all the product which are having 3 carbon compound, hence it is called as triose phase. So now we shall explain about glycolysis. As you know very well, glycolysis is nothing but breaking down of glucose. Glucose is 6 carbon compound. Look at the screen. So glucose is utilizing one ATP molecule, then it is become into ADP. Then the glucose is converted into glucose 6-phosphate with the help of an enzyme called hexokinase. Then the glucose 6-phosphate is isomerized with the fructose 6-phosphate due to isomerization. Glucose 6-phosphate that can be converted into fructose 6-phosphate with the help of an enzyme called phosphohexose isomerase with magnesium 2 plus ion. Then this fructose 6-phosphate, utilizing one more ATP by phosphorylation to become into ADP, then this will be become into fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. Fructose is 6-carbon compound. There are 2 phosphates attached at first position and the 6th position. That is why these are called as fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. This fructose 1,6-bisphosphate is formed from fructose 6-phosphate with the help of an enzyme called phosphofructokinase and magnesium 2 plus ion. Finally, the fructose 1,6-bisphosphate is splitted or cleaved by an enzyme called aldolase to produce 2 molecule of 3-carbon compound of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate and dihydroxyacetone phosphate. Both glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate and dihydroxyacetone phosphate is 3-carbon compound. These are mutually interconvertible with the help of an enzyme called triose phosphate isomerase. So until this phase, this is called as preparatory phase. After this stage, this will be entering into the next phase is called as payoff phase. So during this payoff phase, this glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate or dihydroxyacetone phosphate are combined together because they are mutually interconvertible. So 2 molecules of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate is entered into the payoff phase. So what happens? These 2 molecules of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, it is oxidized and phosphorylated. That means 2 molecules of NAD plus is utilizing 2 molecule of hydrogen from glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate to produce 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate with the help of an enzyme called glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase. So this is 3-carbon compound. So the bisphosphate glycerate, which are having 2 phosphate at first position 1 phosphate and the third position is another phosphate. So there are 2 phosphates are attached with the glycerate. So that is why these are called as 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. This 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate are dephosphorylated with 2 molecules of phosphate is added with 2 molecules of ADP to produce ATP. So hence this is called as dephosphorylation. Then this 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate will be converted into 3-phosphoglycerate with the help of an enzyme called phosphoglycerate kinase. Then the third position, the phosphate is attached in glycerate. From the third position of phosphate is removed to the second position. Then the 3-phosphoglycerate is converted into 2-phosphoglycerate with the help of enzyme called phosphoglyceromutase. And moreover, Mg2 plus ion is also to be utilized during this shifting of this phosphate molecule of glycerate. Then the 2-phosphate glycerate is dehydrated by 1 water molecule. The removal of water molecule from the substrate, which is called as enolation. So the enolation takes place with the help of an enzyme called enolase to produce phosphoenol pyruvic acid or phosphoenol pyruvate. This phosphoenol pyruvate, finally they can dephosphorylated by producing ATP from ADP, utilizing 2 phosphate molecule from 2 phosphoenol pyruvate. And this phosphoenol pyruvate is finally converted into 2 molecules of 3-carbon compound of pyruvate with the help of enzyme called pyruvate kinase. This process is called as glycolysis. This flow chart and explanation is very important. So glycolysis is a common process which will be takes place both in aerobic as well as anaerobic respiration. So after glycolysis, then immediately this will be entered into the mitochondrial matrix to produce a link reaction. So the 2 molecules of pyruvate or pyruvic acid formed by the glycolysis in the cytosol enter into the mitochondrial matrix. In aerobic respiration, this pyruvate with coenzyme A is oxidatively decarboxylated into a certain coenzyme A that can be seen with another process is called as, that is Krebs cycle. Look at another picture. So this is called as Krebs cycle and link reaction. So link reaction is nothing but oxidative decarboxylation of pyruvic acid. So the product obtained in the glycolysis, that is two molecules of pyruvic acid or pyruvate, enter into the link reaction. So this pyruvate, which will be oxidized as well as decarboxylated. That means NAD plus is utilizing two hydrogen atom from pyruvate molecule will be oxidized to produce NADH plus H plus. So this is called oxidation. Then coaxial enzyme is enter inside and decarboxylation takes place. So it is oxidative decarboxylation of pyruvic acid. Here the pyruvic acid is converted into the 3 carbon compound of pyruvic acid or pyruvate is converted into 2 carbon compound of acetyl coenzyme A is formed with the help of an enzyme called pyruvate dehydrogenase enzyme. So this reaction is called link reaction. So this is also called as oxidative decarboxylation of pyruvic acid. Otherwise this is also called as pyruvate oxidation. So at the end of pyruvate oxidation, acetyl coenzyme A is formed. It is 2 carbon compound. Then this acetyl coenzyme A is entered into the mitochondrial matrix, especially mitochondrial membrane. So this will be entered into the mitochondrial membrane. So it is very important. Then this enter into the Krebs cycle. So in this membrane of what you call that is mitochondria, which are having oxaloacetic acids, it is 4 carbon compound. This 4 carbon compound of oxaloacetate or oxaloacetic acid is combined with acetyl coenzyme A. There is 2 carbon compound of acetyl coenzyme A, which is produced during link reactions, are combined together to form condensation process by a hydration. Hydration means adding of water. Then removal of coenzyme A to produce the 6 carbon compound of citrate. That means 4 carbon compound of oxaloacetate, 2 carbon compound of acetyl coenzyme A are combined together to form 6 carbon compound of citrate or citric acid. Hence it is producing citric acid. This is called a citric acid cycle. So this was discovered by Melvin Calvin. Sir, Melvin Calvin and Benson have been discovered about this process. Hence this is called as Calvin cycle. So this Calvin cycle is also called as citric acid cycle. Hence it is producing citric acid at the first product by both acetyl coenzyme A and oxaloacetic acid are combined together to produce citric acid. Hence it is called as citrate cycle or citric acid cycle. And moreover, it is also called as tricarboxylic acid cycle because it is producing 2 carboxylic acid, 3 carboxylic acid. Hence it is producing 3 carboxylic acid. So this cycle is also called as tricarboxylic acid cycle. So it is producing 3 carboxylic acids, acid like citric acid, cis-aconitic acid and isocitric acid. That is, it is also called as citrate, cis-aconitate and isocitrate are produced during this process, during this cycle. Hence these are called as tricarboxylic acid cycle or TCA cycle. So here the citrate is dehydrated, that means it is removing water molecule, and that will be converted into cis-aconitate with the help of an enzyme called aconitase. Then this cis-aconitate or cis-aconitic acid is rehydration again. That means it is adding water molecule. Then it is forming isocitrate with the help of aconitase enzyme. Then this isocitrate is oxidized. How it is oxidized? Then the isocitric acid is oxidized by NAD plus is utilizing 2 hydrogen atoms from isocitrate to form NADH plus H plus. So this is called oxidation. So this isocitrate is oxidized to produce oxalosuccinate. with the help of an enzyme called isocitrate dehydrogenase. Then this oxalosuccinate is decarboxylated by removal of carbon dioxide molecule. Then this oxalosuccinate will be converted into alpha ketoglutarate acid or alpha ketoglutarate with the help of an enzyme called oxalosuccinate dehydrogenase. Then this alpha ketoglutarate will be converted into succinyl CoA with the help of an enzyme called alpha ketoglutarate dehydrogenase. Here, one oxidation and decarboxylation takes place. During this process, one coenzyme A is enter the cycle, and by the meantime, carbon dioxide is removed. So hence decarboxylation is occurred. And moreover, NAD plus ion is taken, two hydrogen atom from alpha ketoglutarate to become into NADH plus H plus. So here oxidation as well as decarboxylation both are takes place at the same time to produce succinyl CoA with the help of enzyme called alpha ketoglutarate dehydrogenase. Then this succinyl CoA will be converted into succinate with the help of enzyme called succinyl coenzyme A or succinyl coenzyme A synthetase. Here one direct ATP is formed. That means it is substrate level phosphorylation takes place. That means one adenosine diphosphate is linked with inorganic phosphate to produce ATP. This is called direct phosphorylation. So here ATP is produced directly, hence it is called direct phosphorylation or substrate level phosphorylation. Here one hydration is also occurred by adding of water molecule, and one coaxial enzyme is removed during this process. Then finally succinate is oxidized by FAD is utilizing hydrogen atom from succinate to become FADH2. Then it is converted into fumarate with the help of an enzyme called succinate dehydrogenase enzyme. Then the fumarate is hydrated by adding water molecule to convert malate with the help of enzyme called fumarase. At last, the malate is utilizing oxidation. That means NAD plus is taken hydrogen atom from malate to become NADH plus H plus. Then it is converted into oxaloacetate with the help of an enzyme called malate dehydrogenase enzyme. So once again, it is oxaloacetate is recycled. So hence it is recycled. It is called as Krebs cycle. Sir Hans Krebs, who was German scientist in the year 1900, he was awarded Nobel Prize for his discovery of citric acid cycle. Hence, this cycle is also called as citric acid cycle. Sir Hans Adolf Krebs discovered this in the year 1937, but later he was awarded Nobel Prize in the year 1953. So this is called both oxidative decarboxylation of pyruvic acid and Krebs cycle. So these two processes, it takes place in mitochondria. So this is the structure of mitochondria. So you should understand about the structure of mitochondria as well. Already you might have studied about the structure of mitochondria in 6th chapter in detail. But even though you can look at this picture, this mitochondria is having double wall membrane bounded organelle, which is having outer membrane and inner membrane. These inner membranes which are forming a finger-like projection inside to form the structure which is called as cristae. The cristae which are inserted inside the empty body, which is filled with a fluid called matrix. So inside the matrix, a lot of chemical substances are available. There is mitochondrial DNA, ribosomes and so on. So inner to the cristae, there are F1 particles which are present. At the tip of this cristae, they are having very important body is called as F1 particle. So this energy production takes place in this F1 particle. So this is also called as oxysomes. So this is you might have studied in the previous chapter itself. Now we are entering into the another concept, that is what are the significance of this process of Krebs cycle. So already we discussed in details of this Krebs cycle. It is also called as TCS cycle. So it is provide energy in the form of ATP for all the metabolism in plants. So this carbon cycle or TCS cycle provides a carbon skeleton or raw materials for the various anabolic processes. Many intermediates or TCS cycle are further metabolized to produce amino acids, proteins and nucleic acid. The succinyl-CoA is a raw material for the formation of chlorophylls, cytochromes, phytochromes and other pyrrole substances as well. Alpha-ketogluteric acid and oxaloacetic acid, which are producing during the Krebs cycle, undergo reductive amination and also producing amino acid as well. It is acts as a metabolic zinc which plays a central role, that is in intermediate metabolism. Usually the Krebs cycle may be called as amphibolic process. Generally, what is amphibolic? That means it is both anabolism and catabolism. Anabolism means it is combined together with a simple molecule and to form a larger molecule is called anabolism. Catabolism means the large molecule is break down to produce simple molecule, that is called as catabolism. But this process of respiration, which is called as this Krebs cycle will be called as both anabolic and catabolic nature, because generally this is catabolic process. Generally Krebs cycle is always primarily catabolic pathway, but it is also provides the precursor for various biosynthetic pathways, thereby an anabolic pathway too. Hence it is called as amphibolic pathway or amphibolic pathway. Now we are going to discuss about electron transport chain. So electron transport chain or electron transport system can be studied in detail with the help of a picture. So even though the respiration as you know that respiration process is a energy producing process. So this takes place in mitochondria. That is why mitochondria is also called as powerhouse of the cell. So hence it is producing energy or energy production. So this is called as powerhouse of the cell. And moreover, respiration process will be called as energy producing process. But at the end of glycolysis, oxidative phosphorylation or pyruvic acid and Krebs cycle, energy cannot be produced. When if it is entered into the electron transport chain, then only the energy will be produced, because during various stages of glycolysis or link reaction and Krebs cycle, which are producing lot of energy sourcing substance like NADH2 and FADH2. When these NADH2 and FADH2 are oxidized completely, then only they can able to produce energy. That is why the electron transport chain is a terminal oxidation process. Due to this oxidation process, they can able to produce huge amount of energy. So during glycolysis, link reaction and Krebs cycle, the respiratory substrates are oxidized at several steps, and as a result, it is producing or it is reducing to produce NADH2 and FADH2 are produced. These reduced coenzymes are transported to inner membrane of mitochondria and are converted back to their oxidized form, produce electron and protons in mitochondria. Especially the inner membrane of mitochondria folds in the form of finger projections called cristae. In cristae, many oxysomes, that is F1 particle, already we have seen in the diagram, that is F1 particle, are present which have been electron transport carriers are present. So this electron transport is, this according to Peter Mitchell's chemiosmotic theory, this electron transport is coupled to form ATP, that is ATP synthesis. This electron, hydrogen, that is proton transport takes place across four important multi-protein complex, that is complex 1, complex 2, complex 3, complex 4. Look at this picture. In this first picture, it is having a dark violet color. So this is actually originally it will not be violet color. So this is easy to understand, that is why it is indicating with violet color. So this is first complex. Then the pink color is second complex. The blue color is third complex and green color is fourth complex. So in such a way, the four important multi-protein complexes are there. So complex 1 is also called as NADH dehydrogenase complex. Complex 2, that is called as succinate dehydrogenase complex. Complex 3, which is also called as cytochrome BC1 complex. And the complex 4, which is also called as cytochrome C oxidase complex. So in such a way, there are four complexes are there. Both NADH2 and FADH2 are transferred through these four important complexes. They can able to produce energy. Whenever, if these molecules are transferred from one complex to the second complex, one ATP will be produced. For example, if these molecules are transported through electron transport chain from first complex to the second complex, they can able to produce one ATP. Then if it is producing second complex to the third complex, they can able to produce second ATP. And if it is transported to the third complex to the fourth complex, which is also can able to produce one more ATP. That means if it is transport all the complexes, that can able to produce 3 ATP. Suppose if it is transported from second complex, they can able to produce 2 ATP. For example, if it is transported from second complex to the third complex, they can able to produce 1 ATP. Then third complex to the fourth complex, they can able to produce one more ATP. So 2 ATP can able to produce. So whenever NADH2 or NADH plus, if it is transported from first complex to the fourth complex, so they can able to produce 3, they can oxidize to produce 3 ATP. But on the other hand, flavin adenine dinucleotide phosphate, that is FADH2, the reduced form of flavin adenine dinucleotide phosphate, that is FADH2, they can able to oxidize from second complex to the third complex to the fourth complex. That is why they can able to produce 2 ATP. So when NADH2 is oxidized, they can able to produce 3 ATP. Then FADH2, if it is oxidized, they can able to produce 2 ATP. Then how this electron transport chain takes place by transporting these material to various electron transporter. So complex 1, which is consist of a flavoprotein FMN and associated with non-heme iron sulfur protein, it is FES. This complex is responsible for the passing electron and proton from mitochondrial NADH to ubiquinone. So this is first thing. Then it will be enter into the second complex. Suppose this takes place in plants, an additional NADH dehydrogenase, this external complex is also takes place, which is present on the outer surface of inner membrane of mitochondria, which can oxidize systolic NADH2. Then ubiquinone or a coenzyme ubiquinone is a small lipid soluble electron proton carrier located within the inner membrane of mitochondria. Then this will be enter into the second complex, complex 2. So this is succinate dehydrogenase complex. So it contains FAD, that is a flavoprotein is associated with non-heme iron sulfur FES protein. This complex is received electrons and protons from succinate in Krebs cycle and it is converted into fumarate. So succinate to fumarate and passes to ubiquinone. Then this will be passed on to the third complex. The third complex is cytochrome BC1 complex. This complex can oxidize to reduce ubiquinone and transfer the electrons through cytochrome B1 complex to the cytochrome C. So cytochrome C is a small protein attached to the outer surface of the inner membrane of mitochondria and act as mobile carrier to transfer the electrons between complex 3 to the complex 4. Then complex 4, that is green color part in this picture, which is showing a cytochrome C oxidase complex. This complex contains two copper centers called A and B, and cytochrome A and cytochrome A3 in complex 4 is terminal oxidase and bring about the reduction of oxygen to water molecule. Here water molecule is formed. Here water molecule is formed by half oxygen. Half oxygen is combined with proton to produce water molecule in the fourth complex. So in such a way, these are all oxidase to produce either 3 ATP when NADH plus H plus is oxidase, then they can able to produce 2 ATP when if it is FADH is oxidase. So that's all about electron transport system. Now we are going to see about respiratory quotient. What is respiratory quotient? So respiratory quotient is nothing but it is a ratio of volume of carbon dioxide given out and volume of oxygen is taken during respiration is called as respiratory quotient or respiratory ratio. That means respiratory quotient is equal to volume of carbon dioxide is evolved to volume of oxygen is consumed. So this will be depends upon various category. That means what is the respiratory substance? So respiratory quotient may be changed depends upon what kind of respiratory substrate is utilized. So the respiratory quotient value will be depends upon the respiratory substrate. For example, if the respiratory substrate is carbohydrate, then what happen? What is an equation? C6H12O6. Look at the equation of first one. C6H12O6 plus 6O2 gives rise to 6CO2 plus 6H2O plus energy. So in this process, 6 carbon dioxide molecule is evolved and 6 oxygen molecule is utilized. Therefore, respiratory quotient of glucose is 6 molecules of carbon dioxide evolved by 6 molecules of oxygen is consumed. Therefore, 6 by 6 is equal to 1. It is unity. So, respiratory quotient of a carbohydrate substrate is 1 or unity. Similarly, if the respiratory substrate, if it is passing through in anaerobic respiration, then if it is pass on to the anaerobic respiration, the respiration is takes place without oxygen. That means oxidation is not takes place, but the respiration is broken down to produce carbon dioxide and ethyl alcohol. So look at the equation. C6H12O6 gives rise to 2CO2 plus 2C2H5OH plus energy. So here amount of carbon dioxide evolved is 2 volume of or 2 molecules of carbon dioxide. Amount of oxygen consumed is 0. That means respiratory quotient of this anaerobic respiration of glucose is equal to 2 molecules of carbon dioxide is evolved by 0 molecules of oxygen consumed. So 2 by 0. Any number by 0 is equal to infinity. So the respiratory quotient of glucose molecule by anaerobic respiration is infinity. So there is a 2 mark question or 3 mark question. They will be asked why the respiratory quotient of glucose oxidized during anaerobic respiration is infinity. So there might be asked questions. So get ready for answer. So as I said just now, that is this respiratory quotient will be depends upon what are the substrates are going to be used. Suppose if respiratory substrate, if it is malic acid, then what will happen? If the malic acid is oxidized, they can produce an equation, that is, look at this picture. 2C6H12O6 plus 3O2 gives rise to 3C4H6O5, that is malic acid, plus 3H2O plus energy. So in this reaction, there is no carbon dioxide is formed or evolved, but they are utilizing 3 oxygen molecules. That means respiratory quotient of this malic acid is in succulent plant 0 molecules of carbon dioxide by 3 molecules of oxygen, that is 0 by any number 0. So the respiratory quotient of malic acid in succulent plant or xerophytic plant is 0. Similarly, the respiratory quotient of certain fat molecule, suppose a tripalmitine. For example, look at this equation. So this equation will be giving you an idea about respiratory quotient of a fat. So tripalmitine, which will be having an equation, 2 molecules of C51H98O6. This is the molecular formula for tripalmitine. This is a fat which is combined with 145 oxygen molecule, gives rise to 102 carbon dioxide is evolved and 98 water molecule, and the energy is released. Here the respiratory quotient may be equal to 102 molecules of carbon dioxide is evolved by 145 molecules of oxygen is consumed. Therefore it is equal to 0.7. Then the value is less than 1, that is less than unity. So the respiratory quotient for the fat material is less than 1. Then we can be able to see about the respiratory quotient of malic acid in normal substrate. That means the respiratory substrate in organic acid with the respiratory quotient will be more than 1 unity. For example, the equation C4H6O5, this is malic acid formula. It is combined with 3 oxygen atom, gives rise to 4 molecules of carbon dioxide and 3 molecules of water and energy. So respiratory quotient of malic acid is equal to 4 molecules of carbon dioxide by 3 molecules of oxygen atom. That means 4 by 3 is equal to 1 by 3. This is more than 1. So respiratory quotient of malic acid in normal plant, which will be more than 1. Then what are the significance of respiratory quotient? So respiratory quotient value indicates which type of respiration is occurring in living cells, and either aerobic or anaerobic. It is also helped to know which type of respiratory substrate is involved. So this will be helping us to understand about respiratory quotient. Now we are going to see another concept which is called as anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration, which is also called as fermentation. So usually the anaerobic respiration is nothing but some organism can respire in the absence of oxygen. This process is called as, what do you call it? Fermentation or anaerobic process. There are 3 different types of fermentations are there. One is alcoholic fermentation, second one is lactic acid fermentation, and the third one is mixed acid fermentation. So alcoholic fermentation is nothing but the cells of roots, usually if it is oxidized without using of oxygen, they can produce ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide. Then this is called as alcoholic fermentation. Suppose the cells of root in waterlogged soil respire by alcoholic fermentation because of lack of oxygen by converting pyruvic acid into ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide. Many species of yeast, that is Saccharomyces, also respire anaerobically. This process takes place in 2 steps. That is, first pyruvate dehydrogenase and alcohol dehydrogenase, which will be producing alcoholic fermentation. So lot of industrial use are there by alcoholic fermentation. That means in bakeries it is used for preparing bread, cakes, biscuits. In beverage industries for preparing wine, brandy, whiskey, rum, and various alcoholic drinks can be produced with the help of alcoholic fermentation. In producing vinegar and in tanning, curing, and of leather, which is also using this alcoholic fermentation. Ethanol is used to make gasoil, a fuel that is used for car in Brazil. So these are all various industrial use of alcohol fermentation. Then second type of fermentation is called lactic acid fermentation. Some bacteria like bacillus, fungi, and mussels of vertebrates produces lactic acid from pyruvic acid. So this is called as lactic acid fermentation. Apart from this, third category is called mixed acid fermentation. This type of fermentation is a characteristic features of Enterobacteriaceae and result in the formation of lactic acid, ethanol, formic acid, and gases like carbon dioxide and water. So this is called as mixed acid fermentation. Now we are going to see about one great tabular column, very important tabular column, that is alcoholic fermentation and lactic acid fermentation. What are the differences between alcoholic fermentation and lactic acid fermentation? So in alcoholic fermentation, it is producing alcohol and reducing carbon dioxide from pyruvic acid. But in lactic acid fermentation, they are producing lactic acid and does not produce any carbon dioxide from pyruvic acid. Now alcoholic fermentation, it takes place in 2 steps, but in lactic acid fermentation, it takes place in single step. In alcoholic fermentation, 2 important enzymes are involved. There is pyruvate decarboxylase and alcohol dehydrogenase. But in lactic acid fermentation, they are replacing lactate dehydrogenase enzyme. Alcohol fermentation, it forms acetaldehyde as an intermediate compound, but lactic acid fermentation does not form any intermediate compound. Alcoholic fermentation is commonly in yeast, but lactic acid fermentation occurs in bacteria, some fungi, and mussels of some vertebrate as well. Now we are going to study about anaerobic process or demonstration of production of carbon dioxide during respiration. How carbon dioxide is produced during respiration with the help of an experiment. So we shall go through an experiment. That experiment will be helping you to understand about how carbon dioxide is released during respiration. I think this might be deleted in new syllabus. In old syllabus, this is available. That is why I thought to explain. If there is not available in your syllabus, it is not necessary to explain. Once we can check in your textbook, then I shall explain about this process if it is available in your syllabus. Otherwise, not necessary. So this is a fermentation experiment, Kuhn's fermentation experiment. This Kuhn's experiment is demonstrating the alcoholic fermentation. So look at this picture. This is having a device. This is called Kuhn's fermentation tube, which is consist of an upright glass tube with a side bulb. Right side there is a side bulb. Vertically there is an upright tube is there. It is closed in the tube. We can pour about 10% of sugar solution in the bulb mixed with some Bacchus yeast into the fermentation tube. Then the fermentation process takes place inside. Filled with a plug of mouth with a lid. After some time, you can keep it first without disturbing. After some time, we can see that the solution will give out an alcoholic smell. If you open the lid, we can smell with alcohol. That means it is producing ethyl alcohol. Then it is also, we can observe that the level of solution in glass tube column will fall due to the accumulation of carbon dioxide gas at the top of the vertical tube. It is due to the presence of zymase enzymes in yeast cell which convert the glucose solution into ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide. Now we can add little bit pinch of potassium hydroxide crystal in it. Then what happens? The potassium hydroxide will absorb carbon dioxide and the level of solution will rise in the upright tube again. That means the evolving gas is carbon dioxide. So whether it is carbon dioxide or not, we can able to confirm by when you add potassium hydroxide, the potassium hydroxide can absorb carbon dioxide. Now the level is once again it is raised up. That means the carbon dioxide is absorbed by potassium hydroxide. By this experiment we can confirm that the anaerobic respiration process in this experiment. Now we are going to see about factors affecting photosynthesis. So what are the factors which will be responsible for the factors? So factors broadly classified into two types, namely internal factors and external factors. So if you see, lot of internal factors means the factors which are available internally into the plant or animals, which will be called as the factors affecting, internal factors affecting respiration. On the other hand, if the factors are available externally, outside, they are called as factors, external factors which are affecting respiration. So this will be helping to understand about internal and external factors which will be responsible for the process of respiration. First of all, we shall discuss about internal factors. The amount of protoplasm and its state of activities influence the rate of respiration. So, inside the living cell, the amount of protoplasm as well as the state of activity will be either increase or decrease the rate of respiration. The concentration of respiratory substrate, that is glucose, or if you are using fat, or even if you are using protein. So, which type of substrate or respiratory substrate, the concentration of the substrate will be responsible for the rate of respiration. So concentration of respiratory substrate is proportionally the rate of respiration. That means if it is increased the concentration, the respiration rate is also increases. Then if it is decreasing the substrate, respiratory substrate, then the respiration rate is also will be decreases. Then if you see the temperature, these are external factors. Lot of external factors we can see like temperature, oxygen, availability of carbon dioxide, and then water, light. These are all various types of external factors. One by one we shall see. First of all, we can see about temperature. So optimum temperature is very good, suitable for any temperature. If the temperature is minimum and maximum, that is also the rate of respiration is minimum. But respiration rate is very high during optimum temperature. So optimum temperature is suitable for the respiration process. Then availability of oxygen. When sufficient amount of oxygen is available, the rate of aerobic respiration will be optimum. And anaerobic respiration is completely stopped. So this is called extinction point. That means if there is no aerobic respiration, the point is called extinction point. Then we can see about carbon dioxide. The high concentration of carbon dioxide reduces the rate of respiration. When it is decreases, then the respiration will be increases. Then if we can able to see about salt content of water. If a plant tissue transfer from water to the salt solution, then the respiration rate will be increases. It is called salt respiration. Then availability of light. Light is an indirect factor affecting the rate of respiration. There is no direct role about the light is affecting respiration. Then the rate of respiration might be decreases with the decreasing amount of water. So water is also doing an important role. If it is increases, the respiration rate is also increases. So proper hydration is essential for the respiration process. Some of the chemical substances can able to inhibit or stop the respiration. They are called as inhibitor of respiration. Some chemical substances acting as an inhibitor, suppose cyanides are available, they can kill the plants and moreover they stop the respiration. If there is any wounding of plants organs, stimulate the rate of respiration. So if there is any injuries or wound is happening in the plants, then rate of respiration is also can be increases. So that's all about factors affecting respiration. Now we are going to see about another concept. This is called as pentose phosphate pathway. Pentose phosphate pathway is another concept which have been explained by Dickens. So during respiration, breakdown of glucose in cytosol occurs both by glycolysis as well as oxidative pentose phosphate pathway. That means overall 2/3 of the glucose oxidation takes place through pentose phosphate pathway rather than glycolysis. So how these are takes place? The pentose phosphate pathway was described by Warburg, Dickens and Lippmann in the year 1938. That is why it is also called as Warburg, Dickens, Lippmann pathway. It takes place in the cytoplasm of mature plant cells. So it is an alternate way for broken down of glucose molecule. So in this pentose phosphate pathway, that is triple P, pentose phosphate pathway. It is also known as hexose monopause pathway, that is HMP shunt. And also it is also called as direct oxidative pathway. So it is consists of two phases, namely oxidative phase and non-oxidative phase. So during oxidative event, the conversion of 6 molecule of 6 carbon glucose 6 phosphate to 6 molecule of 5 carbon sugar molecule of ribulose 5 phosphate with the loss of 6 carbon dioxide molecule and the generation or production of 12 NADPH2 molecule. It is not NADH, it is NADPH2 molecule. So remaining reaction is non-oxidative phase. So in this picture, the part of the process which is showing white in color, which are called as oxidative phase, the part of the reaction or cycle which are showing in green in color, these are non-oxidative phase. So the remaining reaction known as non-oxidative phase, that is which is converting ribulose 5-phosphate molecule to various intermediates such as ribulose 5-phosphate 5-carbon compound, xylose 5-phosphate, that is also 5-carbon compound, glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate 3-carbon compound, pseudoheptylose 7-phosphate and erythrose 4-phosphate 4-carbon compound. Finally, the 5 molecules of glucose 6-phosphate is regenerated. Then the overall reaction can be explained one by one. So look at this picture. So in this picture which is showing that pentose phosphate pathway, it takes place in cytoplasm. Here the glucose is converted to glucose 6-phosphate by a phosphorylation process by utilizing an ATP. Then ATP is converted into ADP. Then glucose is converted to glucose 6-phosphate with the help of an enzyme called hexokinase. Then this glucose 6-phosphate, if 6 molecule of glucose 6-phosphate enter into the oxidative phase. During this oxidative phase, the glucose 6-phosphate is converted into 6 molecule of 6-phosphogluconolactone with the help of glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. Here 6 molecule of NADP plus is reduced by taking hydrogen molecule from glucose 6-phosphate. So this is an oxidation process. Then the 6 molecule of 6-phosphogluconolactone will be converted into 6 molecule of 6-phosphogluconate by hydration. That means it is utilizing 6 molecule of water with the help of an enzyme which are called as lactonase. Then 6 molecule of this phosphogluconate will be converted into 6 molecule of ribulose 5-phosphate with the help of an enzyme called 6-phosphogluconate dehydrogenase. Here one decarboxylation is occurs. That means 6 molecule of carbon dioxide is released. By the meantime 6 NADP plus is utilizing 6 molecule of hydrogen atom from phosphogluconate to form or reduced into NADPH plus H plus. 6 molecule of NADPH plus H plus. So far these are all the process will be called as oxidative phase because oxidation processes takes place, hence it is called as oxidative phase. Then the ribulose 5-phosphate will be enter into various intermediate compounds such as 3-carbon compound like glycerol 3-phosphate, 4-carbon compound like erythrose 4-phosphate, then 5-carbon compound like xylose 5-phosphate and ribose 5-phosphate, and 7-carbon compound like pseudohet plus phosphate. So these are all phosphorylated sugar which will be formed from ribulose 5-phosphate. These are non-oxidative phase. Then these various compounds will be converted into 5 molecule of fructose 6-phosphate. Then finally this fructose 6-phosphate once again it is regenerated into glucose 6-phosphate with the help of an enzyme called phosphohexose isomerase. So fructose 6-phosphate and glucose 6-phosphates are isomers, hence it is isomerization takes place to recycle. So this is non-oxidative phase. So both oxidative and non-oxidative phase which takes place by this pentose phosphate pathway. So what are the main significance of this pentose phosphate pathway? This pentose 6-phosphate, pentose phosphate pathway or PPP or HMP shunt is associated with generation of two important products like NADPH2 and pentose sugar, which play a vital role in anabolic reactions. The coenzyme NADPH is generated, is used for the reductive biosynthesis and counter damaging the effect of oxygen free radicals. The ribose 5-phosphate and its derivatives are used in the synthesis of DNA, RNA, ATP, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, flavin adenine dinucleotide, and coenzyme A. These are all can be formed. And it is also producing erythrose, is used for the synthesis of anthocyanin, lignin, and other aromatic compounds. That's all about respiration process. Thank you.